Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty communions. Here we are. Welcome to love. Yeah, these topics from Jesus have been so deep and so helpful. He's been giving us questionnaires for the 90-day program that are just for conversation with him, really. And he's answering them directly. And we have one on Christ control. So these are the topics for the 90-day program. So it feels really good just to drop all ideas and all these terms. And of course, miracles, there's so many terms. It feels really helpful to understand them fully by his definition, not some idea of what they are. So I'm just turning Christ control over to him and just hearing what he has to say. And that's our only function, is to listen and speak that voice. It's just practice speaking the voice, our own natural voice. The voice of all the love there is and could ever be, until we transcend the idea that there's a voice needed at all. And that's really what Christ control is for. See, the ego, anything out of control that seems out of its control, it's going to whinge. Because it relishes that limitation. It sees God control as limitation, its whole play of consciousness, so that God is squeezed out, totally out of awareness. The voice for God that speaks to everyone, that's just the one message. It's the only message worth having. I was looking at Facebook and seeing all the messages, like, what could be a better message that God speaks to us throughout the day? That what he's giving through a new covenant, the immediacy of the correction, of how to accept the correction and how to speak with him directly and be directly coached by him. Like, what could be more powerful, infinite happy news than that? In a world that wants to play and form. I don't know. For me, I guess it's just for me. Do you hear what he says on Christ control? He said it's just an acknowledgement of what already is anyway. It's not like something new happens. It's just a concept. He was showing me today, even the concepts of willingness and unwillingness or in the dream. But they're just helpful. These thoughts or this idea about Christ control, just they're a conversation starter, really, because the play of consciousness is to shut off the conversation with infinite light of being, the communion, the Holy Communion. And it's been so interesting how he's shown how he uses the Course and the words in the Course and thoughts of God to wean us away from thought, because the play of consciousness is the play in the world of thought, and avoid what's beyond all thought. So then he uses all these little thoughts to point us toward what's beyond thought, and use miracles. No, look beyond thought. See that group of thoughts untrue. So Jesus, is this term Christ control, is this important? He says it's everything in the Atonement. It is the atonement. It's acceptance of the atonement. The Christ, the one, is the only thing of value to the Son of God, as the only reality, the only true reality. Okay, so that's not going to be popular. In the ego thought system. Yeah, the atonement's really not popular. You can ask Jesus. In the play of consciousness is acceptance of the atonement. What is the atonement? You know, you hear that word. Well, if you ask the ego, it's going to be, well, it's something to be avoided in every possibility. All Christ control is infinite acceptance of all the love of the Father exactly as it is. There isn't the world's made to not accept it. It said Jesus is to be in the world and not of it. Yes. It's beyond willingness and unwillingness. It's just love exactly as it is. Perfect, whole, and complete. Rather than abdicating control to the ego. Ego. To the alien control. He's saying it's everything that love offers you is in Christ's control. Everything, everything, without exception, that love offers is in Christ's control. In the Christ guidance mechanism, because that guidance is acceptance. The acceptance of guidance is to accept all that is given by the Father exactly as it is, whole and complete. It's not to accept our fate as a little suffering person on the world. It's such a good distinction. What true acceptance is. Acceptance is to accept all the peace and all the love. It's not to accept suffering and all these other displays in consciousness as being real. It's Christ control is accepting only what's real. We've accepted the unreal to as a substitute, as a poor, very poor substitute for having everything. For being everything. I said Jesus is just accepting everything, isn't it? It's giving and receiving as one. You know, but if you just hear those words Christ control, like you could just feel yourself tension up, you know. If you do, then we can just ask him again. I said Jesus, the Christ control is the last unanswered question, isn't it? Yes. It's just merely to say yes without whinging, without backing out. You know, unlike a hermit crab that's going to try on the next shell. That's how consciousness plays. It's going to, you know, it likes to wander around. And then we have that little video of that little, I think we put it in the 90-day program somewhere, but it's very, very cool to see until you realize that's what we're doing in consciousness. You know, there's this little this little hermit crab, and then someone made these little glass cities out of glass that with the inside like a shell, so that a hermit crab looks around and then it just slips itself right into that little city. So then it carries around a little glass city. And if that isn't like the perfect metaphor, like carrying around the world on our shoulders, and then we don't like that view of the world, then we go ahead and we go over and we try on a new little world, a new little fantasy. I said, Jesus, Christ controls giving up all the little shells, all the little fantasies. The fantasies that are really unhappiness on a stick, really. Denial. I love that, how he talks about enlightenment is like there's no one to be enlightened. I mean, we use these terms because there aren't other terms to use for it. Can't be conceived. Like it's inconceivable because it's not conceivable. First of all, light is not conceivable. It's beyond conception. It's the immaculate, beyond even the immaculate conception. It's just pure isness. It's all that is, celebrating. And so even to call it enlightenment, I mean, that term is used, but who's getting enlightened? What's the enlightenment? It's ceasing to deny what's already always been here. It's just willingness to look at all the twitches in the light of divine being. Am I willing to see what I've denied because it's true? That has just been such a theme here. The last unanswered question. What a valuable, valuable pointing. And have nothing in form even come close to it. It can't. Am I willing to see Jesus that I'm light? That's it. Ta-da. Is that price control? You can hear the yes, because everyone can hear Jesus. Everyone can hear Jesus without limitation. So it's really, Christ control is just putting no limitation on the communion with ourselves as divine being. No limitation on Holy Communion. It's Holy Communion. But if you said Christ Communion, there are no words for infinite love as it is. What? Christ Communion. I said Jesus. God Communion is beyond Christ Communion. Yep. Yeah. It's just merely giving over the idea that there was something to control. That control was even necessary, actually. It's just helpful. He just offers, I'm seeing that in every single word, every paragraph that he puts into, is put into A Course in Miracles. Every paragraph, every sentence it's offering is so purposeful. It's so whole. And but if it's conceptualized in the play of consciousness, the full expression is lost. So he knows that in the play of consciousness, because there's so much resistance to even thoughts of God. I mean, I was just thinking about that, like how in the beginning, you can give over about 3 minutes to him in the Course in Miracles. 3 minutes. out of a 24-hour day is about all we can take. And then we would run screaming into the dark nights, you know, and, you know, okay, now we're going to do that twice a day. Like, that's how much consciousness does not want to see that it's light. You know, like he can give us about 2 minutes before we absolutely blow up or splay like a cat in the grass going, I don't want to see that. You know, he's got to get, it's really, it's when you start looking, it's really extraordinary for being infinite light beings, how he has to so carefully lead us lesson by lesson, release of miracle after miracle after desire after desire, with that precision. He's reminding me about the precision and the accuracy of working with him. Yes, he's saying to work with him on everything is to be under Christ's control. Asking him every question. That's Christ's control. Making no decisions on my own. That's Christ's control. You know, I will make no decisions. So it's really following the assignments. Christ control is just following assignments to a T. I'm asking him even to the point where that's released. Because you can see that infinite light doesn't need an assignment. It doesn't need Christ control. It just is. It's isness. It doesn't need willingness. It doesn't need a project or a plan. The consciousness that likes to play projects and plan, he gives a project and plan to undo project and plan. And that's where he talks about the specificity of working with him and talking to him directly cannot be overestimated. It's impossible to impossible. The speed, and again, he has reminded me, as he said, they're all means. We watched The Life of the Buddha. Was it last night? Last night. A BBC documentary, and you see the devotion. It's the singleness of mind. You know, Christ control is full acceptance of the singleness of mind, that this is our only function in this world, the only function. And then is to accept everything in A Course in Miracles is true. Yes. Now, it can be, the recognition of divinity can be achieved because it's here. You can just sit in your chair and just go, is the light here? Yep, there it is. Yep, there it is. You know, that's not the difficult part. And that's not difficult because it's here. But the Babuha Loka, the dream bubble, that is the addiction to the Babuha Loka, seems to be like a force pulling us in when really it's a desire to dive in. But we're going to pretend through the weakness play to be really weak and helpless. I'm going to be so helpless and so weak that I can't get myself out of this, because we desire experience of feeling like we can't get out. In the play of consciousness, exactly that, the play not to recognize light, not to celebrate light, not to be it. So to have the one who knows come in and coach specifically line by line. This is not popular. You know, this is, look here, look at this, look at this, look at this. What's most helpful for healing the mind? When we really ask Jesus, what is that? What does that mean? That means that it's turning over to infinite, which is certainly going to know better than finite. Where in the subconscious mind is infinite light being the desire for something other than infinite light? And then to be directed, to be given assignments by him, and then be directly for those that want the short awakening. It's clear in the play of consciousness, it's not wanted, not a scrap of it. I'll take the leisurely road. I'll try every different magic. Let me try a little more magic. Let me try, you know, my way with Jesus. Let me
More preferences.
Yeah, I mean, he works with all of it. You know, he never abandons. It's not like he abandons us, but we don't see when we don't express his divine being, which is the prompt, is the expression of divinity. What happens with that is the guilt comes up, and then we hide in the trance inside the dream bubble. He's giving us a way to express as a divine being. So we're, you know, he doesn't go anywhere. He's just saying this is the expression of all the love our Father has for you. Following this prompt right here, this one thing is the expression. You are outside. You are no longer in miscreation when you follow, because you're in alignment with all the love the Father gives you. And it's like, well, he will love me. He loves me anyway. You know, the ego will even use these terms out of every term out of Course in Miracles, as Jesus said, can be convoluted, every single one. Well, that's why it's so helpful. He's coming and he's going, okay, this 90-day program, he's given the questions to ask him. It's like, answer this question and I'll coach you in it. Ask this question, I'll tell you directly. Ask this question. He's even given us the questions. So sit there and ask them. And then he's just delivering at the deepest level, just to demonstrate that he is available to talk to anyone who's willing to follow his instructions at a very deep level and explain the whole Course in Miracles, soup to nuts. So it lives in the heart. So it's alive. That's his whole point about a new covenant. The Course in Miracles is alive. And several beings have said that too. That's experience here. It's alive. It becomes alive inside. That's what Christ control is. Instead of the death march every day of a twitch to something else, he's going, no, let me show you. Let me show you where infinite light of being is designed. And I'm going to show you specifically which desire it is. I'm going to show you specifically which assignments will save the most time. Or we like the smorgasbord of consciousness. No, Jesus, that sounds really good, but yeah, I found this. I shared the link here, probably part of the 90-day program, but the link for this group called Stepping into Discomfort, the Yes group or something like that on YouTube. I mean, it's so amazing. The things that they do, so guided by spirit, it's just off the rails. So I watched this episode where they walk down the street and they ask someone, would you change your life for 3 days, exchange it with somewhere around the world, someone else around the world? We don't know who it is. But you'd be leaving Saturday and you'd take their life and they'd come and live in your place. And just, they found the guy in Sweden and then a guy in Austin who did it. They exchanged. I mean, it was so beyond the beyond of, you know, being in the spontaneity. And just that's how they're just totally stepping into discomfort. And we're so unwilling. The play of consciousness is so unwilling to step into discomfort. Its whole play is to make its little comfort zone. I'm asking Jesus, is that what Christ controls? Step in? It's beyond that, because the mind has moved beyond the idea that there's a limitation in discomfort. And so it's like one track. That's what Christ control means. You're just on that one. You decide it's beyond discomfort because you moved out of that. It's I don't know how to say it. Jesus, what do I say? But it's a stage. He's telling me it's like a stage at first. It's step into discomfort. And so the beautiful examples, like they have people, they'll just walk down the street. They're walking in the airport and they go, hey, where is there anywhere in the world you want to go? We can go now. and they'll get people to say yes, and then they go. Or then they took all these, they walked down the streets. Where were they? Budapest. Okay, they're walking down the street in Budapest and going, and they're collecting backpackers. People who backpack and live in because they're going to live in the most hovel in and you see how purposeful that is, that kind of movement, where you don't know where you're going to sleep at night, and how much more spontaneous these beings are that are doing this sort of thing as assignment, and they're just really stepping out into the world and trust anyway. He's just inviting them and saying, we can't tell you where you're going to be tomorrow, but you got to trust us totally. And one guy goes, well, so much for my kidneys, but that story of people losing in foreign countries and they wake up without a kidney. But but so so they took all these people and they told them where to be. If you really want to do this, just show up right here. It's so Holy Spirit. It's so Holy Spirit. It's crazy. They show up and what do you call it? A limousine, but that specific kind of car. Forget, it's like a tank kind of car, but it's a limousine, one of those limousines, a Hummer. So this huge in Budapest, right? So first of all, from people all over the world, there must have been 20 of them. If it said yes, they didn't know where they're going or what they're doing. They got in there and they just about fell over. Here it is. They served them champagne and they take them to like this phenomenal house where they're all going to stay. They don't even know anyone, and they can spend the night. It's got a pool in the middle of it. It's just, they had a chef come in and cook them, and it's just oh man, the energy of that. It's so off the rails. That would have been something I would have avoided like the plague. So like, what do you mean the spontaneous say yes and you don't know who these people are? And I can see through Jesus sending me all these countries, he was unwinding me to be able to say those yeses to the spontaneous and to see the love in the brothers. And they just all came together like they were just, and the two guys, both those guys that made the decision to go, they were bawling their eyes out. Everyone was bawling their eyes out with the switch because they were both like so welcome home on both sides of the, it was like they were scooped up, they were cared for, they were taken to the most unbelievable things, the people are, and it was such a symbol of Jesus showing that's what God is really offering us. It's not about the form. It's to see beyond the form, but he knows we're so dependent on form. We need those time and space rearrangements. I'm asking Christ control is to see, is to be so available to those time and space rearrangements because we're no longer trying to control things. We're more in the spontaneity, in the now. Yes, Christ control is now. Holy Son of God, you are Holy Son of God, he's saying. Holy Son of God, it's now. It's all the love of the Father now. Yet it can expresses out in the opening to everything, opening to our brothers, opening to what because the ego thinks it knows everything. Plus they put a all points bullet in it. Okay, any of our subscribers in Budapest show up. They got about 10 of them to show up. They didn't know what was going to happen, but they knew the drill. You say yes to I mean, they're just so the miracles. It's like the miracle channel. It really, it's the time space rearrangement channel is really what it is, because miracles are change in perception. Time and space rearrangements is another one. Was they looked at the least traveled place on the planet. Where are you going to go? The least traveled place, Tuvalu. Just in case you need to know what that is. To this place will put you on your knees. It put him on his knees. You could just, it was, know who's going to travel there. It's somewhere like in the Pacific. Let's see, it's probably closest somewhere around the Australia zone, but that's how far away it is from everything. And it literally, you stand on this island. I think there might be, I don't know how they fit 3,000 people on this island, because it's like a strip, a loop strip, the island. So anywhere you stand on the island, you look to the left, there's water. You look to, it's like sand on both sides. And no one ever travels there. So that, like, he was there like 3 days. He found one other tourist. No one ever. But he said, I mean, that the whole, the sharing and the extension and the everything, like, so this is what they do there. This is like so unheard of in this world. As you're growing up, if you, now this is holy relationship. Watch this holy relationship. You meet someone, you can call them a brother. They are your brother. And then your families, when you grow up, move in together, and they all live together and share. And there'll be like 50 people in a house. Like they don't even like sleeping on beds. They all sleep on mats. But they, it's just so in purpose. Like the whole thing's like the whole island's in purpose of just being true. I don't even know how does it work? I don't know how it works. They're in the middle of nowhere, but they somehow it like all works. It's just, he was just so humbled, like, and I could see how it is, because they're so welcoming, and people take them into their houses, and he took them around. He found one subscriber, a guy in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, recognizes him, by the way. Now, come on, that's just, he goes, you're from the Yes channel or something. Oh my gosh, it's so off the rails. But it was such a good demonstration of really letting go to the ceasing to deny, really. Just like totally be in whatever shows up. And I'm telling you, every one of those videos like take you to your knees. It's like, will you do it? Oh, and so I shared the skydiving. So they're walking down. Who does that? Oh, I can feel myself a little tense. He walked in. We're going to find guys that don't know us to go skydiving, to be in the trust totally. We're driving an hour and a half away, by the way. You want to go skydiving like right now. And there they were. They walking along, it may take them 2-3 hours. Then all of a sudden someone goes, yes, I've always wanted to skydive. And then and everybody's in tears together. It's just, oh, we need that. We really need to just, drop it. Quit worrying about somebody taking our kidneys. But it's just such a great demonstration of, it's trust. It's the admission that we have greater value than our kidney, than the idea we have of ourselves, It's spectacular, that channel. You gotta watch it, because you can see all the twitches come up about being that spontaneous, about, ooh, could I do that? Could I be spontaneous? And let's go jump out of a plane. Well, now Jesus says go. I mean, these things are spectacular, really. It's worth watching. They had, I just was so, Jesus always leads you to the things you need to see. So they decided they wanted to throw a party, so they had to find somebody's house to do it. So they went door to door to ask people if they would host a party, and then they went out on the street and they told people, yeah, We're having a party. We can't tell you where it is yet. But will you come? We're going to have a party at somebody's house we don't know, but but it was mystical, and all these beings would come together. That's what he's offering us, rest in each other's arms. That's the whole ego. Something bad's going to happen to me if I, go out. I remember that, you go out just to walk down the street without your phone or something. I just asked, I said, geez, you're going to laugh a lot. You're going to laugh a lot when you're under Christ's control. He said, that's happy laughter. That's what Christ's control is. It's happy laughter. Infinity. I can see that play, every time something would come up, seemingly in form, you look for the crisis. That's the hunting mechanism. It's going to go out there. It's going to find 300 ways to die in that moment to the Christ light. It's going to be because, and we don't see that when he gives this prompt, it's to express divinity now. It's not about the future. It's to see how the ego is going to create a future out of it and then deny the light right here, right now. So all it does is really show where we're just going to go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be spontaneous. I like my little safe fiefdom. As he said, it's a fiefdom of nothingness. I'm just asking, checking in with them and see if I'm really willing. Oh, so much love in that stepping out. To be so unencumbered, and I didn't see that before. He's sending me all these countries and, and by myself supposedly. And then the mighties come. They show up in those countries. They just have all those. It's like we give no opportunity for those spontaneous joinings at all. And now it's just one question. It's just one question. Is this divine expression? Is this the expression of all the love the Father has for me right now to accept whatever this invitation seems to be in form? But the invitation is never about the form. The invitation to Christ control is about the acceptance of divinity right now. Am I willing to accept divinity right now and admit that I'm more powerful than the idea I have made of myself when you accept these invitations that he's giving? And when that yes comes with all of the heart, like, yes, I am willing to see myself as much more than the idea I have of myself. That's the expression of all the love the Father has. Let thine eye be single. That was the message. That's the message in the Buddha, and the message of Hunt for Red October. Who could guess? And you just see it in all these movies where they have one, they're Cyclops. You put your eye, you put the eye on that light, and you don't, nothing is, no. Finally, we answer the last under the question. We say, there's nothing more powerful than this. There's nothing more valuable than this, than all the love the Father has for me. Am I willing to accept that and cease to give it the boot out of my mind? And and we've been talking about it here, how it's just so, this single-minded focus of only talking to him all day. I'm only going to talk, what does Jesus say about, they tease me, about the what does Jesus say? But it's been helpful for me. Okay, let me see what Jesus says about that. Let's see what Jesus says. Let's see. until the point that Jesus is the only thing worth having in residency. The Christ is the only thing worth of any value for residency, full residency. You know, that's it. Are we willing to accept that the Christ is the only thing of full residency? He used the word, I'm talking to him, he used that word control on purpose because he knows the ego loves control. And so to really look at what Christ control means so deeply, see that it means all the love that's totally given by the Father. That's what it means. But see, the ego is going to say, oh, I'm being taken over by a foreign, you know, I'm gonna be like the alien, that movie where that little thing comes screaming out. Another form of denying that we're already the Christ. It's just ceasing to deny the Christ. Yeah, so few will, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter how many. It could be one, it could be none. There is only one. Yet in the play of consciousness, it's like, no, I'm going to stretch this out. I'm going to do my little Jesus loves me smorgasbord. I'm not going to follow the assignment. I'm going to look at I'm going to look at what looks good, what looks good plan. I'm going to find the spiritual teacher that I like. I'm going to, you know, he's shown me that over and over. You know, it's spiritualizing, which is denying the assignment. Oh, I think this looks good. Christ control is to say, Jesus, what is the Father's will for me in this moment that expresses all the love he has for me? I allow that through me. And just say yes. So you're walking down the street and two people come up and one goes, hey, I got this really good spiritual retreat right here. And someone else comes up and says, hey, you want to exchange apartments for a day or a week? What does Jesus say is the only question. Because the mind will choose the one that it perceives as the most safest and will keep that personal identity going. That's what it will choose because it wants to preserve personal identity. It can do that in a spiritual retreat. It's going to choose the things that fits its idea it has about itself that will best keep those. And it could be, it could be a spiritual teacher, a spiritual program, but it won't be guidance. He hasn't shown me that in spades. And sometimes you got to even say, know that the ones around you that seem to be reflecting. You just have to say, what is Jesus saying to me now about what's most helpful for healing? What is he saying? And then you start to catch it. You can learn so much because you'll watch the play of consciousness. We were talking about that. How much light training it takes to catch it when the dream starts, when the denial starts. Even asking the word, what will Jesus say? What does Jesus say about this specifically? See, the ego doesn't like to get specific. It's gonna, it likes to veer off into a story about why that particular point from Jesus is impossible, or that request from Jesus that, well, that just doesn't work for me, or I'm too busy, or this is more important right now. We were talking, it's like you're coming into the landing on the Christ landing pad and you're just going to bounce. It's like, you've seen those failed landings. We didn't get it right, so we got to bounce off and go around again. Go make another attempt instead of just landing with Jesus. So yes, there'll be other opportunities, quote unquote, but we'll hide from them because we won't want to. We go the turtle thing. It's spiritual turtle. Jesus is with me all the time. Meanwhile, we're like really pulled in, not talking to Jesus whatsoever, and finding little low-level assignments. It loves that. The ego loves those little low-level assignments. You know, I'm with God right now. I'm doing what? No, no. You know, it plays in the playing small category, and then it goes, oh, this was really good. I read a paragraph in the course, and Jesus, I'm going to ask him right now. He would say, if it's not guidance by me, I wouldn't have you read the course. Now that's deep. You know, but that's the way ego play. It'll go, oh, well, here's a good alternative. I went and read the course. No, it can be the lowest level of denial. It can be the highest level of denial of Christ light. That's how specific it is. That's how specific he is about telling. He's saying that level of specificity. You don't even crack the Course in Miracle book open unless he says, if you want the fast way. In other words, if we want the last unanswered question, no, because it can be spiritual avoidance because the mind gets hold of Course in Miracles. So there are times it's not helpful. He's reminded me about this whole thing is about direct experience with him. To let him show us the denials, one after the other. Boom, here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. Where don't we want divine being? And again, the best way is sitting with him in the contemplation, the joinings, and then accepting the assignments and going, I'm not doing anything other than accepting the assignments he gives me. And just see how it works. And then not judging him, like he says in chapter 30, you know, do not judge what you've been assigned, because that's a thing the ego loves to judge it. That's all he says about Christ control. Full acceptance of all the love the Father has right here, right now. That seems worthwhile. Okay, Jesus, thank you. That's all he has to say for now, which is plenty for me. So much love in that. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I feel open to them. He says he's open. But since everybody can talk to Jesus, you can ask them directly. But if you do have them, I'll leave spaciousness. Or if you see this video later, because I'm sure, hopefully it feels like, yes, it will be translated into Spanish. And then you can just send your questions because they're for me, you know. It's joyous to get the questions because you see that you just go to Jesus. Oh, this is another thing I can ask Jesus about. Thank you, beloveds, for joining us.